There you go. All right, so go ahead and run it again. And this time we are going to see that it's running. And then we're going to say open and it'll run. So running with Chrome Wrapper 94. We're going to write one more new test. And after that, we're going to create a report. So notice like when you're running it right now, it's running, everything is green. There are some warnings, red warnings and stuff. That has nothing to do with your test. So we don't really care about that. And okay, so it passed all of it. As you can see, how do you know this? If you click, there we go, 4 out of 4. So this is the first thing you should be looking at, and that should tell you. Now, as you can see, share your Chrome report with the team. So share your, Cucumber report with your team. So if your team has no problem enabling the report in a Cucumber server, then we can do this. I think I did show you how to enable this. So if I click on it, and now you have your report. So you see right there, and you can actually, so now it says log in with your GitHub. So you can log in and then actually own this portal for yourself. So it will be report.cucumber, and then you'll have some sort of company identifier. So that way your company people can log in and can see these reports. This is a brand new thing from Cucumber. As you can see, like it failed some stuff before and still it has it here. So we'll have to look at it. But as you can see that we got our report. Okay, this is not our report. Sorry, my bad. So this is a report from somebody else, but we have to enable the report actually. So I think this is okay. So we're going to enable the report. This is one way how report server works, is because this is a built-in report, right? Cucumber report. So in an interview, if they said, okay, what kind of reporting did you use? You're going to say I use Cucumber built-in report. It's actually publishes in Cucumber portal, which they have a report server, and therefore anybody can access those report from your company. So how do we go ahead and enable this? It says source test cucumber.properties. We have to say this, right? One, the environment variable. This is what we need. Okay, so we're going to take this environment variable, right click, copy. Okay, I'm going to go to run, edit configuration. I'm going to go ahead and remove that. Cucumber Java, and then environment variable right there. Look, okay, so now I will go ahead and paste it right here, right? This, and we're gonna enable is equal to true, right? That's it. Click OK. Now, what if I didn't want to run it? What if I want to run it through command line, right? If I want to do command line, then same thing, Cucumber, and paste, and then paste the, let me go into the run first. Okay, I'm going to copy this, right? And then I'm going to go to terminal. Okay, if I do this, if I do this from here, Cucumber and Cucumber publish enable true, it will still create a report into that server. Okay, so I'm going to run it from here. Okay, boom. Okay, bash. Okay, so I got to make sure that my bash is correct, so we can actually do it from our terminal. But first, let's see if it worked. Since we already put it into our environment variable, right? So I'm going to run it one more time. So there is more than one way to get the report, and I'm going to show you. The next one is local report, right? And why is report necessary? Can somebody here at least do a guessing? Like, why do you think report is necessary? Anybody want to answer this?
A report necessary in order to give it to the product owner, a more detailed, I would say just basically just letting them know what's going on without having to go with the QA jargon.
That is somewhat right, but I guess the proper way to say this would be, imagine like you are the guy who's writing the test, and I'm saying, hey, how's the test looking? You're saying it's looking real good, and he's like, oh wow, okay, great, that's it, right? And then he goes and release, he goes and deploy, right? He goes and release the code in production, and now production has a pretty much chaos situation, which is people cannot do their regular business. Let's say it's for Chase, right? And you run your automation and your manager says, hey, are we good to release? And you're saying, everything looks good to me. And somehow you ran your tests in another environment, or maybe you ran your tests and you think you ran your tests, but it didn't run, right? But the manager trusts you so much that he said, oh, okay, everything is good. Let's go ahead and release that. So he tells his team to release the code, and he does that. Next thing you know, millions and billions of dollars are being lost because there is a bug in the system and people are being able to withdraw more than what they have in their account, for example, right? So now if I have $1, I can withdraw unlimited amount of money because it doesn't really check for how much balance I have before I can withdraw. So now think about that way, right? And so it's gonna be like, at that point, everybody's gonna say, wait a minute, so what happened? What just happened? I want to see what really happened. Tell us what kind of test that you guys did. And you're gonna say, well, I did some testing, but now you have no evidence of testing, number one. Number two is that it doesn't sound very professional. It doesn't sound like you did your job, right? Even if you swear on it, like, I swear I tested this. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're an engineer. You should be relying on data, right? Not what you feel and how you feel. So in order to stay in a company long, and this is for, I guess this is for someone who is going to be joining as an advisor or lead in a company, is that just always prove that you did your work by providing data. And that will be one way, is providing the report. Your manager doesn't really care about report, and he says, okay, how's it looking? You said it's good, and he says, okay, fine, we're going to go for release. No, you're going to send him an email with all the detail, including the report, and you're going to say, please find this report as a QA sign off that all of our existing test cases passing, as well as the new test cases for the current sprint. We ran it in such environment, and these are the things that we haven't tested, or there was no need for testing this and this area of the application because of the impact, right? So you will be writing a detail, and you're going to be telling them what areas you tested and what areas you did not test it, what devices you tested and what device you didn't test it, what browser you tested and what browser you didn't test it, right? All this information. And this is like kind of like a lead kind of role where you kind of write that email, including the report, and you send that out to the entire team. Out of the entire team, your manager looks at it, he approves it, and then they go forward. Now, if you work for a finance company, they will not even go for a release unless they see a QA sign off. So I did a contract position like several months ago, and every time I was a lead, so I had to provide my sign off. And every time I would say, okay, we're good to go, let's go ahead and release, I would have to provide all the test cases and everything that we ran, and how is it looking, where we ran it, and everything. Until then, upper level management, they don't even provide their approval, right? So it depends where you work. So you may be working for a startup company, let's say, and they have like maybe 15 or 20 employees, right? In that case, they will say, okay, how's it looking? You said it's good. They will release it. They would not even care about the report, right? But just because they don't ask, shouldn't you provide that? Because remember, you want to be as professional as you can be at the job that you're given, right? So write a very nice email. If you need some help, go online, Google how to write an email for a report or release sign off, find something and follow it, right? And that's the way you're going to be writing this report. Now, whatever I just showed you, a report server, if you click on this link and it shows you the report, it's something that many companies is not going to be okay with, because they don't want their information going and floating into another server, right? So now, if you want to create a report locally, you would have to do this by running it locally, right? So if you run it here through command line, usually Cucumber, if you say Cucumber, it should run but unfortunately, let me see what's my bash is. Okay. Why is my bash is not working? Let me see. One second. Simple. I think this is the one we are working with. No, BDD automation. Okay, BDD automation framework. There we go. CD. BDD. No. BDD automation framework. Unless this. Okay, that's good. Pom.xml. Okay. But I think we'll have to create a runner file. Right. So we have to create a runner file to do this, right? And okay, so one second. So there's more than one way to do it, right? One is like, because we're Maven, we can also run it through Maven. And Maven, as you know, that we need to provide the dependency for running the tests. Where are we going to be running it? So if you do Maven, let's see if Maven works here. Maven test. Just want to make sure. Okay. All right. Let's see. Build successful. So it did build. And okay. All right, just give me 1 second. I got to create a runner file for this to run. Got the cubes. Okay. Okay, select package outline. So where's our package? This is our those. Okay. All right. So I'm going to create instead of main, right? So that way we're good. And I'm going to say it's a file. I'm going to say run test, right? .java. So what's going to happen here is that we need to, let's see. Okay, run test. So typically, let me see. Format code. I'll set a source root. Okay, that's. Gotta go into the source. Okay. No, it should be inside of this actually. So there's many ways that we can run our tests, right? It's just like I'm a big fan of command line, and when you run your tests, you have to pretty much provide which runner file, right? So for example, this one, we're saying that we want to create a HTML report, right? And pretty means is gonna include some of the formats that will make it look nicer for your report. And we want the Cucumber report. Cucumber is the command that we're running actually to run your test. The problem here is that this file is, maybe we didn't create the right type of package. Java file outside of source root. Okay. I'm going to click on run. Let's see. copy path, absolute path, and I'll just do this Java. CP. Okay, if I have error, component cucumber cannot find a symbol. Okay. Okay. So when I do maven.test, let's see. It should include our test to run, but it doesn't. Let me see. BDD framework. Okay. Test -d cucumber. Options. Okay. So it's the same thing that I'm going to be running, right? So I can copy paste, but it's fine. Options, and here I will be writing the format, right? So this is the format that we want. To condense. Okay, let's see if we build successful. Okay. What we are missing right now, we're probably missing a XML portion for Maven to run. So 1 second, let me just go ahead and include that. We'll plug in. Maven test. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so control time this, finished at that. Okay, so I'm going to go to the pom.xml real quick because this is what we're missing, right? So instead of dependency, we need to add something else. Let me see. What am I missing in here? Okay. Copy path. These are so you know how we right click and run it, but we can run the test also with commands, and that's what I'm doing right now. And once we figure it out, we'll be good. But right now, I know I'm missing something here with, you see, it builds it. It just doesn't run the test because we're missing something here. I just want to look at that portion of XML that I'm missing. Do a small googling on this side.
But it's supposed to say what we're missing, right? But it doesn't say anything.
Yeah, it's sometime when you'll see that sometime the problem, they don't really specify what is the problem. It's just doesn't. So it's the command line. Did we remember running this test? As far as I know, we don't need that kind of build. I'm gonna include, I don't know if we have build here. We don't. Okay. So this is inside of, this is outside of dependency. Go ahead and include that. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and real quick try this. Okay, even the build didn't help. Let me go ahead and click on build. Refresh. Okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I kicked out because we do use the same login from for Shantabai outside. I think he'll try to log in, almost kicked me out. All right, so I'm trying to build that right now. Let's see. There is a refresh button here. Okay. Okay, so we'll wait until this finishes. This is taking.
Life, I take home, drive all night.
This is the package where step definition is, copy path. Oh, wow, this is running forever. Okay, let me just go to terminal one more time. BDD framework, build successful. It does run with, let me see real quick. What is our edit configuration? So we got that unnamed one scenario. Main class is this Cucumber core. Run on name. Okay, didn't run. That's good. Right to the side, run. configuration. Enable true, and then environment right here. Apply. Okay. Oh God, this cat makes so much noise here. All right, this time around, let's see. So the other way to run also is through Jenkins. So there's more than just one way you run it and you create a report, but we're trying to explore more than just one way at this time. Let's see if that actually created a report. Publish resource. Okay, so source resource cucumber properties. I did include this already in the. See here, marketing ground ever say. Okay. Okay, so just real quick. So it should be cucumber dot property. Okay. So slash. All right, so I don't want to waste too much time thinking about this one, but let's go into report. We'll use this as an example for now, right? And so when you write your email and you say, hey, test is passed, right? You're going to be including these statistics, right? How much percentage that has passed. So how many executed and when did you run? What is the duration, right? So duration is also something that we'll be closely monitoring weekly basis. So for example, today it took 0.6 seconds and tomorrow it takes 20 seconds, right? For example, then obviously that is a huge performance drop and you'll bring that up to their attention. Like when I ran the test and this is what happened, but there are many things that you want to consider is that sometimes maybe the system that you have is slow. So it is taking a little bit of time to run. So just make sure that your system is fine before you bring that up to people's attention. So when you run this test, like for example, these are the commands that we have. For example, we have to create it into our properties, which I just added right here. Same thing, what is being asked. But we still need to configure this runner file. That's where the issue is at this point. The other thing is that for some reason, Maven is not able to run our tests. Usually you don't need extra configuration to run this test. So I'll figure it out. Maybe next time I'll show you guys. So let's look at the report real quick, how it's going to be. The report that you see here, this is an HTML report, right? And then locally, HTML report means is that you're going to see a nice, it's like an actual web page, right? That's how it's going to look like. XML report, you're going to see very differently. You're going to see code rather than rather than a nice report like this. So this HTML report is going to be somewhere on your directory. So every time you run your test, you're going to be in the runner file saying, I want to create an HTML report and I want to put it into a specific place, right? So this is where you're going to be actually specifying that. And once you do that, then what it will do, it will basically put it into Target. So I think Target is gonna be able to, let's see if we can kind of find some of these reports here. Maybe status, okay. No, it's not here. Okay, so if this was JUnit, it will probably put it in Target and we'll be able to see the test the report, and then we take this test report and then we can communicate with our managers and say everything passed, here's a report, and you're good to go. But what happens in a well-established company is that we leverage Jenkins, right? So how many people here knows Jenkins? What is Jenkins, and how do we use Jenkins, right? What is Jenkins in the first place? Because that's where you will see 90% of the companies using Jenkins, and that's where the report will be published, right? So just want to make sure that people have a little bit of idea, and then I'll go over what Jenkins is, right? So what is this guy? He says download, and you can actually configure and all that stuff. So anybody here knows what Jenkins is?
I don't know about Jenkins.
Okay. Anybody else that knows Jenkins? Okay. All right. So that's good. If you don't know, I'm going to just give you a small overview of it. So you know how you automate, and your automation includes manipulating browsers, right? You tell the browsers what to do, right? But what Jenkins can do is that it can do build automation. Build automation meaning it can also do process automation. So what Jenkins is simply doing is that when you install this guy into a computer, that computer will have ability to control other computers as long as it has the right permission. Okay. So now you have a single computer that is controlling maybe 10, 15, or 20 other computers, essentially accessing the shell of that computer, or in an easier term to put it is that you are directly accessing the brain of the computer with Jenkins and telling them what to do, and they're doing it without having to go through click here, click there. No, you just directly give them a command and they will execute just like how you would do it normally on that computer. So to summarize it, Jenkins can control other machines, right? Now, if that is what Jenkins is able to do, then sky's the limit, right? So what's going to happen, the way that we run our tests is that we tell Jenkins to access another computer, and then we tell it to install this framework, install all the Maven dependencies, and then run our test. And when it's done, we're telling him to give us the report back to the Jenkins. Make sense? So everything that you will be doing as a human being here, like let's say your manager says, okay, go and run the test, and you come here and go ahead and click run, and you're running your test, right? Jenkins will be able to do it schedule basis. You tell Jenkins exactly at 11 p.m. every day, I want you to run these sets of tests, and it'll do it. It'll use as many as machine as you ask him to use. So now let's say you want to run in parallel, you tell Jenkins, listen, I want you to run it on 5 different machines. So here are 5 different machines, and you have admin access to all 5 of them, right? So here, and the way you give them access is you use public and private key in order to give them direct access. So if I have your public key, sorry, if I have your private key, then I can control your computer from here without you even knowing what's happening, because I will be accessing your shell, right? And so that's why one of the reasons you should never share your private key. Same thing, public key. If I give you my public key and I go into your machine and I put my public key into your machine into a very specific part or folder, which is called known host, right? then I essentially have all the permission to go into your machine and do whatever I want, right? I'll be able to access at any given time. You would probably not notice. You will probably not notice that somebody is actually logging into your computer and looking for things, right? So that's how we will be giving access and permissions to those machines. So that way they can go ahead and run your test and send a report back, right? So Junkin allows you to run test without having you clicking on it. And you may say, okay, wait a minute, it's just a click. Why don't I do it? What if you want to run tests every day? Are you going to be clicking every day? Like you go in there, you open up and you click, okay, I'm going to run my tests every day. Imagine you have to do this every day test running. You come in here, right click, run it, generate a report, and then put the report somewhere. Or Junkin can do this automatically. It runs a very specific time that you provide and it will generate a report and put it into a place. So remember, Junkin is a process automation tool. And how does Junkin achieve his goal on automating process is by accessing other machines and telling them what to do. So essentially other machines, if Junkin have access to other machines, they are kind of slave, and Junkin is the master. Junkin is living inside of a master machine, because that machine will not give out his access to other machines. So other machine will not have access to it, but then the master machine will have access to every other machines. Any questions? Okay, so I will.
So if my manager told me that you have to run this test, so every time I have to go to Jenkins and run the test.
Well, you see, that's what I'm saying, right? If you are running your test and you go into Junkin by yourself and click, you can also tell Junkin, okay, I don't want to click, just run it exactly at this time. So the way it works, let me give you guys some screenshots, because we will probably set this up at some point. It is not a easy thing to set up, so it takes a little bit of time. So I'm not going to do it for the interest of time today. So you see the jobs right here. These are the jobs, right? They are pretty much responsible for running something. This is for resetting, for example. You click on it, it sees green, that means it ran. Last successful run was 20 hours ago, and last failure was 20 hours ago, and it ran in 51 seconds, right? So similar to that, you just click on it, boom, and it runs. Okay, but what does it do is you determine. You as a QA engineer, you're gonna say when somebody clicks here, then I want these commands to be run onto the machine, so onto this machine. So you'll have to provide which machine you want to run this command to, and you have to write the commands. So for example, if you want to run automation, the first thing you're going to say to Junkin, okay, first go, let's say, go into a machine. So you're going to provide an IP address of the machine, right? So it goes in there. You tell Junkins to wake up the machine, right? For example, so because if the machine is 24/7 live, then the company is spending a lot of money. So it will not be up and running unless you need it. So Junkin is going to be able to go and wake it up, right? Once that is done, you tell Junkin to run a command, right? Run command, which is like git, let's say git pull, right? So you're going to say, Junkin, get the repository. So in this case, get all the code, right? The latest code, right? From the repository, the test automation. So you're basically getting all latest code from test automation repository, right? Repo. Okay, so that's one thing. So that's the 3 commands that you already provided. Then you're telling, okay, Junkin, go in there, and once the code is downloaded, then I want you to do Maven. So MVN, let's say install, right? Clean and install, for example. So you're running 2 commands. One is Maven clean, one is Maven install. You're cleaning up if there's anything, you're removing existing dependencies, and then you're installing back the dependencies. Once that is done, so you're doing this work because why? Because you're going to be having that automated. And once that is done, then you're telling Junkin, okay, go in there. And now that we have dependency, now that we have a repository with all the latest code, I want you to run the test. So you're saying Maven test. Maven test, you will run your tests. I think we need to configure that on our side, or at least our hierarchy here probably needs to be changed for it to take an effect. But anyway, when you do Maven test, it will run. But Maven test also, if you do D cucumber, which is -D cucumber, and you will be able to provide what you would like to run, right? So in this case, we're going to tag, you can use a tag name, right? So you can tag your test, for example, this, right? So this is a regression, and you can say, okay, I want you to run only regression tests, right? So at regression, so regression only. So any test that is tagged with this, you'll be able to run a regression. So now, since you're configuring this job and you're writing all this command, you can name this job as regression job, right? Oh, my computer is slow. Okay, so regression. So your job name is regression, for example. You click on it, it will run these commands. It'll go into a machine, it'll wake it up, it will pull the latest code, it will install it, and after that, it will run this command. Once this command is run, it will finish. Once the finish is done, then it will create a report. Obviously, you will have to provide it here. Where do you want the report and all that, right? So once the report is created, generated, then you tell that to publish the report. You then basically ask it to publish that. Now you may say, okay, how do I publish this report? Jenkins has plugin, right? So publish report. Second PV publish report, and Jenkins has plugin. So this is a very easy one, right? Because you'll just install the plugin in Jenkins for Cucumber report, and it will then automatically, it will ask you the path, where is the report, and then you're going to provide that specific path, and it will then publish it for you. And now your manager and everybody will have access. Now, in addition to that, you can say email notification. So Slack notification, right? So these are different kind of notification that you can also do. So you can publish a report through email and send it to your manager directly, and you don't even have to do anything yourself. Jenkins will do it for you. So again, you may say, okay, but how come we didn't learn Jenkins? We didn't go in depth, because Jenkins primarily is a responsibility of DevOps team, your DevOps team, right? They're the one who will do this, but you need to know like what needs to be done, so you can ask them to do it for you. You may have to write this portion for yourself. Everything else, they will do it, like configuration, getting the Jenkins running, getting the master, getting the right access, all of it. But you need to know this. But on your first job, I'm not going to be too stressed about if you don't know much about Jenkins, because on your first job, we're not going to say we're having a lot of expertise onto Jenkins. You're going to just say simply, I ran tests in Jenkins. I just went to the job, Jenkins job, and just simply click and run, and then took the report and published it. Basically, that's it. When you run it, the report is published in one of this folder. You click on it, you copy it, and you give it to your manager, and that's it. That's all you're gonna say in an interview. You're not gonna say, I myself went and configured the entire Jenkins and did this. We're not going to show that type of expertise there. You're going to say, well, in Jenkins, I read my tests, and I pretty much ran it by finding the right job. So it could be a regression job, and then click on it. Once the job is finished, sometimes it takes a couple hours, and then I would take the report. So let's say the report came into this folder, for example, Cucumber report. Then you take the Cucumber report and then share it with your manager before you give your sign off as a QA that the release is good. That's the only thing I want you to say. You don't have to say more than that in Jenkins. Okay. But now you may say, okay, wait a minute, I'm not going to remember this, whatever you just said. We have that in our script. So when you get a resume, you'll see whatever we want you to say is on the script. So if you forget it, that's not a problem, but just know what Jenkins is. It's just a software that is able to control other computers. That's it, okay? It can directly access this shell of the computer, which is the brain of the computer, and then it can run some command to run your test, okay? Let's see, manual report. So these were for your automation report. Again, you are gonna get your report somewhere here. Once we configure it, so I'll show you that another day, but this is how you get your report. There's two different ways that you're getting, and the other ways, like I said, you get directly published into your Cucumber, and you get a report just like this. This will be the easiest thing you can probably do, right? Because you don't have to do anything. You just, whenever you run it, it automatically will provide a report directly in Cucumber itself. But this costs money to the company. So just know that. All right, so with that said, so automation side, these is 3 different ways you can do the reporting. For the interest of interview, you can mention any one of these and just say, okay, in my team, this is how we follow. We use default Cucumber report, this one, and you're gonna be right? So they're not gonna go crazy about, okay, but what about this report and that report? You're gonna say, no, we are utilizing the default Cucumber report in the HTML, and it provides us pass fail and execution time and runtime and all that. And that's what we're using. You can actually say that. Now, what about the manual testing report, right? We still have to talk about manual side. So let's say, because many of you guys, when you join your first 6 months, you're going to be doing manual testing, and which is a good thing. I don't want you to do automation on the day 1, right? Because that will bring you into some troubles, right? Because you may not sleep well at night. It's not going to be easy, because how you see the automation here is not going to be the same. Every company, they have test architect or engineers. The way that they write their code is different. So you have to learn their style first, understand how they're writing their code. And then based on that, you will be writing your tests. You cannot simply say, okay, I saw this is how I wrote the test in the class, and I want to write it this way. When you do it this way, they will not like it, because every company have their own coding process and standard that you need to follow. Okay, so anything and everything that we're showing you is just basics. Okay, this is how you get started. Now, if you join a company and they said, we don't have an automation at all, can you write automated tests? That's an easy gig, right? Because now you can just follow our framework just like this, and you start writing automation, you'll still be fine. So that's one of the good things. But if they do already have it, you have to follow their convention and the way they wrote their test. Now, if we talk about the second thing, release sign off and manual testing, is that you're still running these manual test cases somewhere, right? Just remember, know that. So if you use ALM, or if you use Jira has Zephyr, or Jira has X-Ray, or Jira has test. I forgot the name of this actually. Something another tool, but anyway, but they're all similar. So Zephyr is for test management, X-Ray is for test management, so is ALM for test management. ALM has a little bit more because this is paid commercial tool, HP, and it does have a little bit more. But what I would say is that no matter which tool you use, it will store your test cases, right? So you are able to store your test cases there. So you write your test cases in these tools. When you run your test, and I'll show you Jira Zephyr. The next class, I owe you guys 2 things. One is to make sure that we have the command line here working, the test runner, so that we can create the report. And the other thing is that we will create a brand new Jira with Zephyr, so you guys can see the test execution, and you guys can see actually the test report that you create. So manual testing is pretty much you running the tests yourself. There is no automation. Okay, you going into the system and you checking and everything. So once it's done, your checklist is the test case at this point. You go into that, you check, okay, test pass, right? For example, 1 test pass, 1 test fail. So test first, let's say percentage base wise, you got 80% test that is passing. You got test fail, for example, 10% test failed after the execution. You got test did not run, right? Maybe did not run due to another test percent, 10%. It didn't run because of whatever reasons, right? So these are called summary of your test report, right? Because you're giving just percentage. But then you want to say, so you can say test summary, right? And I'm just giving you a simple email, okay? Right now, email format at this point, right? And then you're gonna say testing scope for release. So if they give you a release, like for example, this is your second release, so for example, 0.2, testing scope, you have to provide them what were areas you tested. So login login. So features, let's say sign up, forums, let's say account, summary, right? Something, some areas of the applications, testing scope. These are the scopes. These are the ones you tested it. And now here you provide a little bit more, pass fail kind of rich, like for the test cases itself, right? You can provide more. So you're gonna write it to your team. You're gonna say, please accept these email as a formal release sign off for release 0.02 below. Okay, and then a subject, you have to write a subject, and then you basically provide. The thing is that you don't provide every single test case and you say, oh, this test case passed, this test failed. They don't need to know that. You can just say, okay, 10% failed, but these are not critical. So you have to explain this 10% here. It failed, but these are deferred and it will be worked on the next sprint. These are not blocker, right? And then you've got 80%. You're going to say 80% high priority test case passes, and very low priority test cases that failed, and we're okay with that. And you're going to say the person who okayed it, you're going to say, according to QA manager, 10% we are okay with it, and we created bugs for this 10% test cases, and we are waiting for that bug to be resolved, but for now we're good, right? And then test that didn't run, like 10%. You're going to say this test case is not necessary for this release. We haven't touched that part of the application. I did, however, do some exploratory testing to make sure that we didn't cause any issues on that side of the application, right? And then you send that to your team, and you're good to go, right? So this is how, if you're a manual tester, this is how you're going to be doing it. Now, many times you may not even have to do this. They will just simply ask you, hey, we good? Okay, where is the report? They directly go into the report. So X-ray, everything that you are grabbing, you're actually grabbing from X-ray or ALM. You can copy those tables and put it in here on the testing summary. Let me show you how the X-ray. Okay, you know what? Let me show you the Ziffer test report. How does it look like? So you can kind of see. Okay, there we go. This is one of the good one to look into, and I actually created those. Okay, let me just go into this Ziffer. So you see, it's telling you exactly how to create this report. I see, right? Total test 32, total executed 14, total, no, 37, and then unexecuted 15, right? So all you have to do is copy this and paste it in your email. You can also like get the summary. So the other one that I like about the report, let me go back. The other report actually is better. Something like this. I usually include this in the email, right? You just simply copy and paste it. You can even like get a screenshot and send it to them. So you see like what happened, test execution by test case cycle, how many, what you ran. So ad hoc testing, you don't have test cases for ad hoc, because why? Anybody wants to tell me why ad hoc testing do not have test cases? Nobody? It's because ad hoc is, what is the ad hoc on the first place? It means that you going and trying to test things out of the, like, it's random testing. Basically, it's going in there, here and there, and checking to see if you can find anything other than just writing, executing your test cases. So for this, you will create ad hoc testing and say, okay, I'm going to do ad hoc testing. You create few task, right? And those tests completed because you tested, and then it'll be included here that you also had ad hoc done. As you can see, who did that executed by the tester, who did what. So this guy right here gets Ziffer, is the person who did most of the testing, test execution, like all of it right here. You can see pass 13, fail 8, and work in progress is 6, blocker is 6. So if you provide this report, your manager is going to say, okay, we're not going to go release until we have all these test passes. Okay. Now, if you have a good reason why they're failing and maybe they're okay with it, then they can actually go ahead and go for release. But again, you can see regression mobile testing failure. Oh, sorry, no, this is not failure. This is some of the test cases for mobile testing. So this seems like an integration test report, right? They're testing all aspect of the application. So this is how is going to be creating the report for yourself for manual testers. You may say, okay, wait a minute, but then I don't know how to create this stuff. You don't have to. This is created by the tool. All you have to do is execute your test and provide the status. That's it. Okay. So hopefully when we set up a new Jira, we'll be able to show you this at some point. But know that this is a automatic reporting tool. And this is where the test also being created and executed. So when you execute your test and you pass, fail, blocked, or whatever is the status, based on that, this is getting created. So whenever you also execute, so know one thing, is that it shows which date you executed. So when you work in a company, you may want to execute every day something. You might want to do something every day. Otherwise, it's going to look like you did everything on the last day, right? And they're not going to appreciate that, because when you do everything in the last day, there is a chance where you make some human error, where you forget, where you basically rushing through it because you are doing everything in the last minute. So always make sure that you use your timeline. You got 2 weeks, start from the day one, make the most out of it. One of our student, I don't know if you guys remember, do you guys remember Irfan? Anybody remember Irfan from here, from the last classes? He did join a few classes back, right? Irfan recently got recognized company-wide that for testing. So he actually joined a company where he's the first QA, right? Unfortunately, he joined a company where they didn't have QA because it's a very early stage startup company. So when he joined, he first couple of days, like, oh my god, I don't know, they have nothing, I don't know what to do, blah blah. So I did provide him some guidance, give him some test plans and test strategies and things like that. But the important part is his dedication. He worked on also until midnight to make sure that he does what he needs to do. And his first release later, so after the first release that happened and he put so much dedication, his manager sent an email company-wide recognizing his name, saying that he did excellent job. And this definitely showed the difference between having a QA in the company versus having a not QA in the company, in terms of release and how this helped and so and so. So he did send me let me see if I can pull up his message. He did send me a message about that. So okay. So just to give you guys some encouragement here, right? See his email right here, right? Many thanks. Da, da, da. Look, his manager probably sent him this message. Couldn't have done this without you. See, so you may think, okay, how will I do, in a company, how well I do and things like that. It's all about dedication. If you join a company and you provide your dedication, it doesn't go unnoticed, right? People do like, your effort. And just always ask yourself the question, what is the difference between you and the person who just graduated it? You want to give them a little bit more than that, because that way they don't have to think like, oh, the ROI, or he hasn't done his, one thing that I want to always stretch about is the work ethic. No matter how you get in, so we're getting in, we're cutting the line, we're lying our way into, let's say, getting a job, but you should be able to do the job and keep your work ethic, right? And when you join and doing manual testing, by the way, he's doing manual testing, right? So and he hasn't done automation just yet, right? As you can see, complete my first project. He pretty much, I mean, he's pretty explicit. So so I said, okay, that's great, congrats and all that. So he did, say a lot of things here, but I try to encourage people, right, as much as I can. But like I said, many of our students, I do have few students that became a director, right? And I'm not even a director. I'm not going to brag about that. I used to be one, and I decided to move down to more technical, positions. But I do have some of my students back in the days, who currently holding positions that deals with hundreds of QA engineers, right? And they are managing 50 plus. They are some of them are managing even more. Some of them are in a place where they don't even do QA anymore. They are DevOps. Some of them are, software engineers. Some of them are doing test architect. And there is a handful of examples that I have, right? But remember, end of the day, if you don't have the work ethic, if you sit on it, if you can't do what they're asking you to do, Google it. Just have that encouragement. Google things. Everything is on Google, to be honest, but Google it, find your way in, do the work. And you're going to sleep good at night because you did the work, right? And also you'll stay longer in a company. But if you join a company and you don't really do the work, thinking, okay, I skipped the line, I did line, and now I'm here, and I'm just going to get the paycheck and not do the work, that defeats all the purpose. It's like we push you, somehow we skip the line, we go in there, we get a job with so many years of experience, and now you can't even perform as good as somebody who just recently graduated. That's really, really, shameful, I would say, right? Because work ethic is something that I try not to compromise, even if I'm working on just more than one project at a time. If I have to stay up at night, like 1 a.m., 2 a.m., I'm fine. Like recently, my manager, right, because I'm doing more than one project, right? She came and she's like, listen, Joel, I think you're doing a lot of work. Why don't you charge us overtime? I'm like, I'll see. Don't worry about it. But I'm working. She doesn't know I'm working on multiple projects, right? So even with multiple projects, she thinks that I'm doing so much, right? And I said, no, I'm fine. I don't need, I don't need the overtime right now. She said, okay, why not charge us for Saturdays then at least, because I see you online and stuff. I'm like, okay, fine. So she's willing to provide me more money for my extra work, right? And so is other companies, right? There are other companies where this one of the companies that I recently joined, and he's the manager is like his son of one of the executive, right? So he's pretty good. But then there is two other testers that I work with, and they are same, I would say same status as mine. And I joined in a little bit above because I joined as a test architect. So when I joined, initially they thought they will be able to boss me around a little bit. And then on the first day, I told everybody, listen, I'm here to make improvements. And so tell me what is wrong. What do we need initially? What can we do better? And I'll go from there, right? So
If you
then,
don't mind, what's your position right now?
what's my position? Currently, I'm doing more than one job, right? One place I'm a lead, another place I'm a test architect. The other place I'll be kind of like managing the entire QA team, right?
Okay.
So it's right now you'll see, like, even my students, right? Few of my students that got jobs like a couple of years ago, they're doing more than one position, right? And the reason why we're choosing to do more than one job is because if you do contract, right, you're allowed to do more than one job, right? As long as your time is, you can actually manage your time, right? But also, if your contract doesn't say, hey, you are not allowed to work for another tech company while you're working with us, then you're good to go, right? But many times, many people, what they do, they also don't even show it, right? They don't have to tell the company I'm working for another. They don't have to brag about it. Like, you'll see my LinkedIn probably hasn't changed since like 2 years ago. Is because in these 2 years, I probably did at least 4 or 5 projects for different companies that I don't update, that I don't put in there, because these are small project, 3 months project, 6 months project, and I just do it, finish, and then move on to the next company.
It's basically contract, not a permanent, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I myself have full-time position. I always keep one full-time position because I do need my medical benefits.
Yep.
But everything else is just permanent contract. And I try not to get like tangle between, like, some full-time job, they will say, okay, you're not allowed to work for any other companies unless you tell us. Those companies I stay away from. So that way I can do more than one. And recently I left the company, which is a full-time job, and even my boss came like, okay, is it about money? Then if it's money, then let us know, we'll increase it. I said, no, I just don't have the time right now, and I would like to move forward with some contract opportunities. But that job, they came back because what happened is they noticed people working on multiple projects, so they started having people signing NDA, which is to say, okay, you are not allowed to work for other companies.
Okay.
Yeah, but I have few students that actually doing 2 jobs. So if you guys, I don't know if you guys remember, because it's very recent, right? One of the student is Shakib. I
Yeah.
think you guys saw him in the class sometimes. So he did 2. Hassan recently, he got 2, right? You guys know Hassan, right? Yeah, okay. So he's gonna start one actually on the 16th, and then he's gonna start the next one, I think, within the following week.
Like it's a 2 full-time job or?
No, both of them. No, I think one of them is full-time, the other one is contract.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So at this point, pandemic brought some people advantage and pandemic brought some people disadvantage. So especially in the IT sector, pandemic did brought a lot of advantage for engineers to say, okay, you know what, why would I work on just one company? Like, for example, let's say you're working for one company and they're making you do one thing, and then you get a second job where you do another thing. So that's also, not only you're making money, but you're also learning something new.
Yeah.
So win-win situation, but at least if somebody can manage it, that's the thing, right? If you can manage it, then wow, okay, that's great. But if you cannot manage and you're losing your mind, then it's a problem. Like recently, I hired this two girls for one of my projects, right? And they're Indian, obviously. So I didn't have a lot of control over like whose resume that I'll be choosing. So we took the interview, they got hired. One of them, she looked like she didn't have any idea how to write test cases. So I spent a couple of days just like this, right? And then I gave her some stuff and she was able to start writing her test cases. And she's like, oh, I thank you so much, and this and that. I was like, no, don't worry about it. All I want is do your job. That's it. Then the other one, I believe she has a second job or third job, and she's not able to handle it. So in the meeting, she doesn't show up sometime. If I give assignments, she doesn't complete it and all that stuff. So I did talk to her privately. I said, listen, you gotta just do your job. You can do whatever you want in your own time, not a problem. I don't want to be a difficult person, difficult manager here, and then she still continued to do the same, coming late in the meetings and stuff. So we most likely looking at her termination, like in about a week or two. We're just talking internally about her situation. But it's it's for people who can manage. If you do more than one project, and even without pandemic, I had friends that did 2 jobs, 3 jobs even before pandemic, because all they did is contract, right? So sky's the limit. It's just you have to be an expert on your role. So if you feel like, okay, pretty much in and out, you don't have to stress about it, and you're able to do what you need to do, then yeah, sure, get 3 contract job. You're gonna end up getting maybe like $300,000 to $400,000 yearly basis, and you can probably buy your own insurance. You don't have to worry about getting insurance, right? So you can do contract at that point, right? But if you feel like that, if you're that kind of personality, that requires a lot of patience and a lot of learning. But also some of the students, they get one job and they're happy with it, they don't want to move forward, and they're good, right? So all right, enough said that, but let's talk about questions right now. We'll go to interview questions. Sometimes I do give you guys those stories because this is a good way to remind yourself that, okay, you're onto something big, and just have some patience and just continue to do what you're doing in order to get to where we should be getting to. At this point, let's talk about the interview prep and interview questions as I'm instructing you guys. So the 50 questions that I gave you guys, the day I gave you, And to now, if you guys did one question a day, today would be at least you would probably finish your 20th questions and be able to answer those. So this is a good reminder again for you to go into the QA questions and start learning.
You already gave this question, but I haven't received.
I think I shared on the group. Okay, so you guys can see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So this is one place. Obviously, I will not ask you to take this as a Bible, but this is one place. This guy wrote this in back in 2007. And I did my QA training 2011, 12. 12, 13, until 13 is I got my job. But these 2 years, I really I finished my training like maybe mid 2011 and then decided not to continue. And then on 13, I said, okay, you know what? I'll go and get a job. And then I went back and got myself a job in 2013. But when I went to the market, one thing that I noticed is that people were not giving you a script, right? For example, they just give you a resume. Those schools I'm talking about, people in tech or other school. I didn't go to people in tech, just so you know. But I'm just saying, like, people in tech, we got other companies out there like Front Tech, Big Tech, whatever. And these guys, they would not give you a script. They will give you a resume, and they will give you multiple resumes. They will give you like 3-4 resumes of their own people, and they say, okay, here are the resumes. Go ahead and make yourself a resume out of these 3-4, right? So you would do copy and paste and make yourself a resume. That's their process. Once that is done, then they spend maybe 6 to 7 months you mentoring and be able to show them that you are capable of taking phone calls, being able to answer those questions, being able to actually teach some people. So you'll be doing some mentoring, which means you're actually teaching some of your classmates. So they do have a very long process, but it is a process where you become successful only if you keep up for 1 or 2 years, right? And the lengthy process, 1 of 2 years, we don't support that, because you're here for a job. We'll do whatever we can to get you a job within 6 months. And when you go to the market, you will probably 1 second, she is gone. Oh. What's that? Yeah, my cat, when she wants to go outside, she goes crazy. All right, so what I'm trying to say is that our process is definitely less time consuming. And when I did my interviews, after the first couple of interviews, I realized I know nothing, right? The recruiters are going flipping on me. They're saying, oh, you know what? We will talk to you later, right? Some of them actually hanged up on me because I didn't know what to say. I was confused and all that stuff. So then I realized, okay, I need some sort of guidance, and I need to be able to kind of feel like, or at least sound like a QA person. Even though I knew the Selenium, I knew how manual testing works, I wasn't able to answer many questions that they had, right? So then what I did, I went on Google and I said, okay, QA questions. And the first thing it showed up is this website, right? Since that day to now, it changed a lot, right? But the question didn't change. The question is still same, like, can you tell me about yourself? So we do follow his format a little bit in order to create you, tell me about yourself. What did you do your last project? Same thing. We do follow a little bit about these 2 questions, but then we got what is test plan, test cases and other things, right? So I would say if you guys kind of read this through, it will give you a very core understanding of QA and some of the meetings and some of the questions that they will ask. This will probably enable you to be able to speak more freely, right? Now, I would not recommend something that I didn't do myself. Everything that you see here, it took me maybe a couple of weeks to memorize most of it, right? So what I used to do is that I used to memorize like at least 10 or 15 questions per day. And I started with the bottom up because I was already scared. Starting from the front, I'm like, oh, I will never finish, right? So I printed all this, and then I started from the bottom, right? What is RTM? That's the first thing I learned, right? And then I go, what is my first goal? What is my weakness? What is my strength? And these questions will seem like, okay, these are easy questions, because what is your weakness? You can actually read once and then be able to tell this the way it is, right? It doesn't have to be exactly the way he wrote, but it could be something that you also take passion about saying it. So start from the bottom if you can, but this definitely helped me to be where I am today. So this, all of the questions that here, nobody will ask you exactly the same question, but you can at least answer it this way. So for example, if they said, okay, what is your future goal? For example, why QA lead and something else. So you can say, okay, I want to be a QA lead because this is, I love this job and I want to progress within this sector. I want to know how to manage QA process, how to handle different jobs and so on. So since the next step is QA lead, so that's what I will preferably be in targeting for, right? So a lot of the questions here is just, if you don't have experience, right, it's good to kind of go through these questions to kind of get yourself ready. Now, if you, let's say if you're that person going in Google and finding something else for the interview questions, I am all for it, because at the end of the day, you're helping us to help you, right? The more you know, that is better for me, right? The less you know makes it worse, right? So try to be ready as much as you can, and I will send some resumes to Shantabai, and he'll distribute based on how well you're doing with him in terms of, you know, keeping up with the mock interviews. I think he did some mock interviews last week. So, and again, if he recommends and if he adds you guys to a group, I think he added a couple of you guys to the interview group, then you will get your resume and we'll get started the process of marketing. Now, when you do the marketing, there's a chance you get a job within a week, within 2 weeks, or within 4 weeks. Hassan was, I think, in your group, right? I think everybody knows Hassan here, right? And he got a job, I think it was at max, it was 3 weeks. And now if you tell me, okay, how did he get a job so quickly? It's because every week he brought 3 to 4 interviews. And he also listened to what I said in terms of, okay, so he did bring 3 to 4 interviews, and some of the interviews I told him, like, okay, let's not take this one. I don't want it. Let's not take that one. Let's not take this one. And I did pick and choose, right? I also sometimes pick and choose and say, okay, let's not take this one because this is extremely hard. Or you know what, this will make you go through nightmares. So let's not take this. So, and he went back and he said, okay, fine, I'll set up another one, right? And that's the process, right? You'll see, like, I'm kind of sometimes not explaining too much and saying, okay, let's not take this one. Is because I am thinking about the future, right? I'm thinking about, can you handle this job? If this job is for you to go in there and become, like, they're looking for a tycoon in coding, then I will say, no, let's not even try that, because we're going to be wasting our time. You go and join, you spend 2 weeks, and then you got nothing, right? Except for money. You did get paid, but you got nothing. But we didn't do marketing for that 2 weeks because you were busy on that job. So we wasted our time, right? So that's why when it comes about choosing interviews, like, you bring the interviews and you present it to me, and I'll say, okay, let's go with it or let's not go with it. Many times some of you guys will come back and say, okay, I got an interview, but that's not an interview. The recruiter says, hey, do you have 5 minutes to talk? And then he emailed you and you're going crazy, like, oh, I have an interview, right? That's a false alarm for me, right? Because if you do a false alarm, what's going to happen is that I will not be able to allocate that time. I'll say to you, can you send me the email? Can you forward the email to me? You forward the email and I read it. I'm like, and I'll just simply tell you, this is not an interview, and just talk to the recruiter, right? The reason why we don't help you through talking to the recruiter is because we already gave you the script. Just read the materials from the script when he asks you the question. Use the material as much as you can. And if you get stuck, then just tell him, like, I'm sorry, but I have to go into a meeting in the next couple of minutes. So let's continue this conversation later. So then you prepare yourself and then you talk to him again. Now, if you cannot pass a recruiter, meaning if you cannot impress a recruiter and you don't get an interview, that's fine. That's totally fine. You continue to do this until you can impress a recruiter and be able to then get an interview. Because if you cannot impress a recruiter, then how would you even, like, get the job, do the job, right? So everything will make sense to you on your first interview. When you bring your first interview and you come to me and say, look, this is what I have, let's take it, and we're going to help you with it. From there on, everything will be clear, like what you need to do. Some people get real confused. You don't have to just take the interview on your own, right? Because we don't expect you to just do excellent on your first interview, right? So if you need help, you can reach out, but it has to be a real interview. It's not a conversation. The recruiter wants to know how much you want, right? Or the recruiter wants to know if you are willing to relocate, right? These are the questions that we already gave you in writing. So you have to read it from there, or you can just read it ahead of time and know exactly what to say. All right, with that said, for today, I will conclude it here, but I'll give you guys another maybe 20 minutes here with questions. And yeah, so if you guys want to ask me any questions, go ahead. But if you don't have any questions, so I will see you next time. But by the time we meet next time, you guys, many of you guys should have a resume. We are looking to put you guys out there so that way we can think about our next batch, but also this time we're going to probably start a bit more stronger, since we're going to add 2 more people to help us through the entire organization. So it'll be a bit more organized. Before your group, we had pretty good organized. It was Shantabai and I, we did pretty good job on organizing and things, but this group, like your group, I would say a little bit less organized at this point, because we started with a big group and then it shrunk all of a sudden, right? And so that's one of the reasons. But also coordination and talking to you guys and kind of keeping things up. Enforcing on homework is something that we didn't do, so you guys got lucky with that. Our last batch, if you didn't do homework, you would hear it every day. You would see that we would bring it up and we would basically ask you, why didn't you do the homework? But this badge, we didn't drill too much on it, right? But it's fine. Just make sure that you do you do your own homework. Try to make sure that you be ready for the job, because at the end of the day, you did homework or not, if you can't do the job, then it's gonna come back, right? You're not gonna be able to keep the job, and that's what matters most. All right, so it seems like nobody has question. I'll talk to you guys later, and if you guys have any questions, just text me.
All right, Joe.
All right, thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you, man. Have a nice Sunday.
Thank you, man.
Bye.